Hello and welcome to With Cars. My name is Demain. I am your presenter, your front of the cameraman, your owner of this car. And this is my 2013 Kia Pro Cee'd VR-7. And this is my first car, most importantly. Now, I've had this car for near enough 5 months. And I think it's time for a review. You know, I've done 5 things I don't like, 5 interesting things. I think time has come for a review, don't you think? So let's get into a real life review, not just pictures on a screen. But anyway, let's get into it. But before we do, I have created an Instagram account for this car. As weird as this may sound to some of you, or maybe all of you, it doesn't matter, I've done it anyway. So if you want to follow, then the handle will be at the end of the video and you can check out that and my 2 other Instagrams as well. But anyway, let's get into the video and make sure you subscribe. Alright guys, so just quickly as a small note, so this review is sort of going to be similar but also not similar to the reviews I've done in the past. Obviously, you know, this is not a screen, this is a real life car in real life me in a real life environment and not a phone. However, I'm still going to do the exterior looks, the interior looks, how the car handles, rides, performance and all of that. However, I'm not going to do pros and cons. I am going to replace it with just small facts about this car instead of doing those pros and cons. But just so you know, in case you're familiar with that format or you're used to it or if that's what you're expecting. But anyway, just so that is clear, let's actually get into the review of the car. I hope I didn't scratch you. Okay, so let's get talking about the looks of my car. So let's start with this grille. Now this is a facelifted car, so obviously it shares the same kind of front end as the normal Cee'd and the Cee'd SW. Now this is known as the Tiger front grille, as Kia likes to call it, and this is around when, you know, Kia started bringing in this type of grille for all their cars, and it does look quite nice. I mean, it does certainly fit the car. I personally prefer the facelift over the pre-facelift, but the pre-facelift isn't bad, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I do prefer this. But the actual front itself, there's no ugly bits to it. You know, you got a crease in the bonnet here and there, you've got a crease here and it goes all along here and then it splits. And obviously you've got that bigger bit of grille as it just goes along. Now higher spec ones did have fog lights, small ones that sat there, so that may add to the aggressiveness depending on how you feel about that. I personally feel like it would, just slightly, but I don't have it, but I'm not going to complain about it because I've got a car and I'm not, you know, not going to turn that down. However, the front is nice looking, at least in my view. Alright, so let's take a look at the side profile. Now, this is something completely different to what Kia would have done before they made this. I mean, look, it's got 3 doors and it's a different body shape completely over the normal Cee'd. And obviously you've got that bit there, which is the usual Cee'd business that you find on all 3 cars. That's fine. But then, as soon as we get here, it's changed. I mean, look, you've got a longer door, you've got, you know, different kind of roof line, and you know, it's got this huge crease that runs along the car, and then this window here and that one, if you look, they sort of form and shape and then come around over here again, and obviously they end up here. Now definitely, this definitely adds a bit of flair or touch, if you will, maybe, I guess you could say that. Now this, tell me what you think of the looks of the side profile. I personally love them. I do quite like it. I do wish that it had slightly different alloys to match the look. However, I'm not going to complain. I've got alloys and that is one of my requirements for owning a car, so I can't really say anything, to be honest with you. But I really do like the side of it. And I will step back and you can have a glance. Overall, it's a more sporty look effectively, which is what Kia is trying to go with. Okay, so when it comes to the rear of the Kia Pro Cee'd VR-7, so like the normal Pro Cee'd, forget about the VR-7 bit. So you've got the boot spoiler, you've got a rather large light up there, not necessarily to be that big, but anyway, you've got the rear windscreen, which is more at a sporty angle.
Then you've got a different boot, you know, it's more of a sporty style with different lights as well, which is definitely more sporty than the normal Cee'd or the Cee'd Estate. And you got bumper changes here and everywhere here basically. Now this one does just get disrupted slightly by the fact I've got sensors, but if you ignore that, then that is what the car looks like. And frankly the sensors don't bother me too much anyway, and I hope they don't with you. But you also get a sticky out exhaust, which is not something you get on the Cee'd or the Cee'd SW. So it's definitely more of a sporty look overall than the normal Cee'd. Okay, I don't know if you can see me, maybe you can, here we are. Let's talk about the interior of the Pro Cee'd. So, obviously Kias in the past have been cheap and nasty. However, this is completely different. So for example, you've got soft touch materials up here. It's not the softest, but if you push it, you know, it does go down, which means it is soft. Okay, you got stuff on the doors as well. Don't know if you can see this side, so I'll try that side. So you've got soft touch there, you've got nice seats, and you know, you've got an armrest down here which has a little bit of padding as well. And then the overall design, you know, it's good. So obviously you've got silver here and here, then you got it here, there, and all over there, and you got it down by the gear lever as well, so that adds some color to the interior. It's not just, you know, black, grey, 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 grey everywhere.
The steering wheel is grey, the dashboard is grey, the seats are grey, the top of the gear knob is grey, the handbrake is grey, the door trims are grey, the pillars are grey, the sun visor is grey.
You know, it's got different designs, and the actual overall design is, you know, it's nice and easy to use. The pre-facelift was slightly different, but not too much, it was mainly just this bit. But you know, you got a nice simple screen, you got the buttons for everything, climate control or just normal air vents or whatever you call them. And then, like I said, normal buttons here. So it's simple and easy to navigate. And if you don't want to use that, you choose the buttons on the steering wheel here like I do. So obviously you've got volume, and then you've got obviously the tracks on that side. And then you've got, if you've got Bluetooth like I have, you've got a button there for it, and then trip computer which is on there. And a nice simple gauge cluster as well, simple to read, with the fuel and the temperature gauge, which are both analog, which is something I definitely like. And something I will say is that this bit here is slightly angled towards the driver, so that the driver has a better view and better control of over what they're pressing compared to if it was just straight like that. So in conclusion, it's got nice quality in bits like the dash and the doors, and then it's obviously got bits of design and colour throughout the whole rest of the interior. So when it comes to performance and engines and all that, so throughout the whole range of pre-facelift and facelift, you got 1.4 petrol, 1.6 petrol, and a 2 litre petrol, I believe. And in diesels, you had 1.6 and a 2 litre. Now, what do we have here particularly? Well, this is a 1.4 litre inline 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated, with 90 horsepower and about 101 pound-feet of torque. Now, in the pre-facelift, it actually had 108 horsepower, and then they reduced it for this. Then for the second generation, it had about 100 horsepower, thereabouts. But anyway, curb weight of 1,250 kilograms, thereabouts. Again, thereabouts, as you blah 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 blah, thereabouts. Front wheel drive and a 5-speed manual gearbox. So 0 to 60 is about 12.5 seconds, or maybe 12. I've seen 11.2 on the Strike trim, which I don't know how that works. It's the same engine and power, well, God knows. Anyway, 112 miles an hour top speed. So now all this is actually quite good, because obviously if you're a first driver like me and this is your first car, obviously you want to be a boy racer, but obviously you don't want to have a crash and then your insurance premiums go up when your car is ruined. Cry. But this is a mix of both, so it's the best of both worlds really. You can have a little bit of fun with it, but it's not going to throw your head into the headrest, or your lungs are going to go all the way back down the road. You know, you're still going to have enough fun with this amount of power on board. If you wanted an automatic, you had to get the 1.6 petrol, and I believe the diesels had them anyway, and then 2 litre diesel may have had it as well. Right, so boot in this car is 340 litres, which is pretty much on par with everything in a C segment class. So Ford Focus, a Golf, an Astra, stuff like that. And it actually looks very cavernous just looking at it. It does look very, very big. It looks bigger than it actually is. When I first saw it, I thought it was massive. But yeah, it's still a good space. It's not the biggest, but it's not the smallest. It's average. It's
average to pretty good, let's put it that way. So that is a nice big boot for you to use. Now it's the same size as you'd find on a normal Cee'd. However, if you fold the seats down, then you lose about 90 litres of space, but that's not really what this car is about. But its main purpose is not really practicality, despite having, you know, a decently sized boot. I mean, it's a sort of a sportier style, but it's also a 3-door hatch at the same time, so it's, you know, it's a mixed bag really. Okay, so when it comes to the rear seats, obviously I'm not really the person to test for that. I'm very small, I'm 5'7", and this seat is even in its furthest back position, and I've still got space. So that means anyone taller, I'd say 6 foot, is going to struggle with leg room, or at least it's going to touch the seats. Now headroom, being 5'7", I've got, what was that? So if I do that, I've got about that much there, which is probably about 3 inches or 4. So that's, yes, anyone 6 foot and over is going to struggle for headroom back here. So it's not really a practical car in the rear. And also, just the rear windows themselves are quite small, so it does make it dark and gloomy in here. And I know it's not practicality wise, but because they're small, the C-pillars are quite thick, which means when reversing it's a little bit difficult. So thank God I got sensors. So while we're on this bumpy road, I can tell you about the ride comfort in this car. So on the pre-facelift, it was known to be quite rough. However, this is the facelift, and I can tell you it is much better, and apparently they have softened it for the facelift, and I can tell it's perfectly fine. It's only during the very harsh bumps and cracks that it's not the best. However, don't forget that in a lot of comfort cars like say a Skoda Fabia or Polo even, you know, that's normal. It's normal for it to be comfortable somewhere, and then on a harsh bit it to be, you know, a bit harsh on the harsher places. So you know what, and to be honest, for the looks you wouldn't think it would ride quite comfortably. To be honest, the pre-facelift is probably how you expect it to, but it doesn't on this facelift anyway. But you know what, I'll take it, it's comfortable, and unfortunately, even though it doesn't match, I do get some nice comfort when going over some London roads. Alright, so now we're on a twisty road. I could talk to you about the handling of this car. So what would I say? So it goes through the corners fine. I mean, it's nothing too special, to be honest. Now it doesn't give a Ford Focus type of handling style sort of thing, which is probably what you consider with these looks. However, unfortunately it's not that, but it's not, I'm not saying it's bad, it's just fine for what it is really. And when it comes to body roll, well, there's a good corner here, a very bendy one. So as I slow down for it, because I'm not willing to get in a crash and I'm willing to go a lot slower, it's quite a tight bend, and as we can see, there you go, you may be able to feel that on camera. So when looking at that corner that we just went over, you're probably able to tell that it did kind of not roll, but you know, lean a bit, and I could feel it as well. However, it could be a lot worse. Granted, it could be better obviously because of the looks of this car, so I'm going to keep saying, because you know it's a sporty look. However, you know, it could be a million times worse, and frankly it's not the biggest deal in the world anyway, and frankly it's just enough to be okay, and I'm not really gonna complain about it too much, to be honest. And coming back to the actual handling, going through, you know, these bends, you know, now unfortunately it's not like a Ford Focus. However, going through these corners can be, you know, pretty fun. I'm certainly having a decent enough time, I'm not really complaining. That's without being biased to my own car. You know, it goes through the corners. To be honest, I feel like even the worst handling car on the planet can still be fun if you make it fun. To be honest, it is a little bit fun anyway, so to be honest, it's decent on
handling, and it's quite good on comfort, even if it doesn't really match the looks of the car, and that goes for both. Now as we go through this town, you know, towns obviously means stopping and starting, so let's talk about gear changes. So it's not the slickest gearbox known to man. Frankly, it's well known that it's quite chunky, quite notchy and all of that, especially when it's cold. The gearbox is just warming up, then I can definitely feel it anyway. But you know, it does sort of give an old-fashioned sports car kind of feel if you were to look at it at that sort of way, I guess you could put it.
It's time for some facts about this car now. So firstly, there's only a few body panels that are shared with normal 5-door Cee'd, and I'm giving you a hint now. Look at the image, look what's on your screen. Did you guess it right? Well, if you said the bonnet and the 2 front wings, then you are correct. Go away plane. Then yes, you are correct. There's the only 2 panels, or 3 should I say, that are shared with normal 5-door. The doors are about 24.5 centimeters longer than on the front doors of the normal 5-door Cee'd. Speaking of length, the 3-door car, which is this, is about 1.5 centimeters longer than the normal 5-door Cee'd, and I know that's not much, but it's something. It's also about 3 centimeters lower in height as well. There is air conditioning in my glove box, but I'm not having it on. I don't need it on.
The VR-7 is a special edition which adds extra bit of kit without a huge price hike. Bits of kit include alloy wheels, Bluetooth and rear parking sensors. The Cee'd and Pro Cee'd share their platform, gearboxes and engines with the Hyundai i30.
Anyway guys, that does conclude today's video, a review of my Kia Pro Cee'd VR-7. If you enjoyed, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Still don't know about videos because obviously I'm busy, so I don't know how often I'll do it. But yeah, if you want to do those, please do so. And also Instagram, which you'll see in literally a few seconds once this video ends. If you want to give them a follow, I'll really appreciate that. But anyway, I'll see you guys in whatever the next video turns out to be. Peace.